All right, we are live again. Thank you, everybody who donated. Your generosity and support is what keeps this happening. $250 already raised, which is over halfway there for the month, and gives me some leeway to be able to pay off at least 1 month's rent and keep on with this continued amazing work. So, without further ado, tonight's episode here is called Dying Man's Deathbed Confessions, Giants Nephilim Disclosure, and R.I.P. Robert Shrewsbury. You were an awesome, amazing individual. For those who have watched Terry Carter's channel, that's who we are watching, who put together these videos, and who's responsible for bringing forward this disclosure and Robert's story. Terry Carter channel. All links are in the descriptions, as well as if you wish to donate to me through PayPal to help me out due to YouTube's once again demonetizing me. The link is also in the live chat. I meant to post that first, and then now once again here is Terry Carter's Terry Carter's channel in the live chat for everybody here. So here we go. Robert's story. It's pretty epic. Let me know how it's going.
I got a question for you.
Okay.
We desperately need a core driller that'll go about at least 25 feet deep. Here's the deal.
Let's hear the deal.
We can rent it, but if it's for free, you get to look.
How big a hole do you need?
About 2 inches so we can drop a camera down inside. They're 10 and 11 feet tall.
Wow.
And we got permission from the owner of the ranch to do it.
Let me figure out something.
You know, just basically dirt, and you know how Sanpete County is? You got these massive boulders underneath the surface of the ground.
Yep.
It's pretty accessible. We can drive right to it in the car. And Stephen and I, just keep this under your hat. We don't want to dig it.
Right.
All we want to do is core drill it, drop a camera down, verify it, cover the hole up, and go.
Okay.
When we detected them, you know, we can measure the length and the width and the shape and the surface of the ground, which we did. And they're about 10 and 9 and 8 feet tall. And then we set it for silver. There's a big, massive hunk of silver on one of them's head.
Wow.
And the other one has some gold on the neck. And then we set it for air. And it's in a perfectly square room.
Really?
With a tunnel that leads off. There's a 90-degree angle to the right and then a 90-degree angle to the left and then ends. And we found several of them.
Huh.
And so I thought, one of them was 11 feet tall.
Wow.
So I thought, wow, we need to take a look.
Yes.
You know? And they're close.
Let me make some phone calls.
Now, you know we got to keep this totally under wraps.
Okay.
Okay, amigo.
Let me make a couple phone calls, and I'll get back with you within 1 to 2 days.
Okay, doke.
Robert Shrewsbury. October 3rd, 2007.
Terry Carter. Hey, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. I got your message to call.
Oh, yeah, well, I'm glad you called me back. I just wanted to see how you were doing, mostly. I've got one taker that wants me to help him and take him to that one site in Canab, Utah, where there's a giant buried. And I told him, well, yeah, you just go ahead and fund it, and I'll help you.
Yeah. Yep.
And they claim they will. So if they come through, then we'll probably get that guy out and photograph him. So we'll just see, you know.
Yeah,
money
cool.
talks, you know.
Hey, question for you. I've heard that John Brewer's passed on.
He did.
And I also remember seeing a letter that you and another guy, he was, if he passed on, he was going to have some information sent to you. Did that ever happen, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so I also have to point out that this is the disclosure of the Brewers Caves. They are quite famous, and that Robert was a good friend of John Brewer, and that now that Robert has passed, Terry Carter has decided to bring forward all and release all of this information. These are gold tablets and drawings and everything that was recovered from the Brewer's Cave. This is the actual Brewer's Cave artifacts, pictures, and the drawings of the giants and Nephilims that you're about to see are those that were sketched by John Brewer himself of the Brewer's Cave's giants. And that is what we are witnessing. So here we go.
I'm kind of afraid of the legal ramifications involved in there, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've wondered about it, yeah.
Yeah.
There's also one thing I'm suspicious of, too, is, because see, I don't really know whether any of his kids know where that is also or not.
Uh-huh.
But one thing that happened is old Jerry Maurer had a visit from some U.S. Marshals.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and they wanted to know if he was trafficking artifacts and stuff. And he told them, of course, he wasn't. And they said they was wondering because some of the stuff out of John's cave was being sold.
Who's selling it? And how would they?
They didn't say who was selling it.
And that's kind of funny to me because everybody's saying that it's a fraud. So that's funny to me that they'd be worried about it.
Well,
where everybody's declaring it a fraud.
They were, but you know that one lead plate, I was the first one to take that came out of John Brewer's cave. I was the first one to take that and have a forensic done on it outside of Utah. It checked out authentic, and I've heard rumors that other people have done it with some of them now.
Huh.
And your point's well taken, but I'm wondering if Johnny Brewer's kids are selling some of that stuff.
Well, I'd heard through the grapevine that they were selling some of that stuff. Before he'd passed on, I heard that they was selling
I've heard
stuff.
the same rumors too. I don't know how to verify it.
Yeah, I don't either. Yeah, I don't either. I'd heard that. So
well, that's kind of interesting. Hey, yeah, I've been working with this technology, and I've learned a lot more about it over in the last year or two.
Uh-huh.
And it's working pretty good. You know, I did one, probably a week ago. I went up this canyon because there were Spanish writings there.
Uh-huh.
And I set the thing for gold and resonated the ground, and then I went in there. First off, the triangle in the cliff tells you where the gold's buried. And I measured the triangle and followed it down, and there was a big 7-foot hole in the ground. Somebody took that one.
Huh.
I see that happen twice.
Really?
Yeah, but what I can do is that when I resonate the ground, I can have it. You know, I got about 15 reeds in there, which they're just basically deposits of flour gold, which is pretty easy to find. But
yeah.
So I paused it again just to point out that this is I believe, what looks like a U.S. government agency with some LiDAR, ground penetrating radar here with Terry Carter, and that they have gone out to the Brewer's Cave section. And since Robert has died, and that they're actually confirming the cave. This is brand new footage, I do believe, of Terry Carter. I think that gets stated here at the end of this video, and that it's key to listen to Robert's absolute genius as he describes how he found these different caves throughout his life, how originally he started with the two rods, oh goodness, brain fart in the moment. He'll say it here in a second, what he's, the term I'm forgetting, and then moved up to the LiDAR and the ground penetrating radar as time and technology progressed, and that this right here is actually the disclosure of them going in, officially documenting the Brewer's Cave here since Robert's death.
I can adjust this thing where it will only find the largest deposit, and I can separate it from the others, which works. So I got a deposit in there, and I went in there. It was about 6 feet wide.
Wow.
And then I put the metal detector over it, and it was strong enough to read on a metal detector, so I dug down about 2 feet.
We are also
and it was obvious it was placer gold, so I took it to the lab and analyzed it. And it was a pretty darn rich pocket.
Wow.
But what's happening is, let me see if I explain this to you. I did a job last year up in the UNS, for these guys.
Uh-huh.
I didn't get anything because basically what I got was pay because that's what I charged.
Yeah. Yep.
But it wasn't on the consignment, but it should have been.
Yeah.
Retrospect always works better than present, doesn't it?
Yep.
So basically, it was obvious that there was Spanish there and Spanish symbols and markers and so on. So I set it for gold and picked up about 15 deposits. And basically, I told them what you have is pocket gold there and gold veins. So, because it's awfully difficult, I can tell relative density from the surface of the ground, but I cannot tell solid gold from a rich vein with this machine. So I says, well, it's Spanish, right? And they said, yeah. And I said, well, tell me about the story. And they says, well, there's supposed to be dead Spaniards in there with armor on them and then some gold. And I says, okay. So I took those 15 reeds that I had, and then I pretty well knew where they were coming out of the ground, and then I turned it on bones. Calcium hydroxide.
Calcite, yeah.
And one of the gold deposits also showed bones.
Wow.
So then we marked it. I noted that down, and then I set it for iron, and it read on iron on the same spot. Then I set it for brass, and it read on brass on the same spot.
Wow.
Then we walked over it, and I set it for oxygen and nitrogen, and I showed a deposit of air inside there.
Huh.
And anyway, that one was a hit. But what I'm saying is, the more you know about a target,
yeah, the more you can. Yeah.
That's how. That's the best way to work the technology.
Ah.
So keep in mind, if you ever go look for one, if I ever help you, try to find out as much about the target as you can.
I will do that.
Information I want to add pass to you. So, but I haven't had very, it was a side-eye shot this year. And Hewitt hit 83. And he went over that target repeatedly, and he says, well, there's no metallic there, and there's no void there. And that's fine, because I have an EM83 too. And now, if you have a solid piece of metal in a tunnel that's surrounded by air on three sides, it will not read on that.
Really?
Because the signal won't come back. It's void, and shows the void there. But if you have a partial connection from the side of the tunnel to the top, it'll read on it a little bit, but in your read, instead of being 200 plus, it may not be any higher than the ground surrounding it. It may equalize.
Yeah.
So in those conditions, you cannot find a tunnel even if it's there.
Really?
So what I did was I went over it with my unit and set it for air and hit the tunnel.
Wow.
Then I went over it with the ground-penetrating radar and hit it again. Then we core drilled it and popped right through.
Really? So have you got a ground-penetrating radar?
It's not a true ground-penetrating radar. It does electromagnetic imaging. And it works to some degree, but when you have something that's highly conductive, it'll show the line on the ground. But a void and something that's highly conductive looks the same. I did a job for some guys a couple of years ago, and then some this year. And what they had was, they had some satellite images of something that they were looking for, and they never were sure exactly where it was at within 1,000 feet in either direction. That's okay, because I found the tunnel for them. But what they did was, they were pirating the satellite signals to find that. But at the time, those satellite signals wouldn't go through this medium very well, and the way they achieved it was, they resonated the ground, say, in the frequency of gold. Then it would pull the satellite signals down. And then it would go through clay and other stuff that wouldn't normally go through and go deeper. Then they were able to get extremely good images.
Really?
And so I'm thinking, I've got to borrow a ground-penetrating radar from somebody and do some tests with it, because if that is that accurate, according to what they say, I've got no reason to disbelieve them, because I did find the tunnel they were looking for and isolated it. Then I could charge the ground in 2 or 3 different frequencies of 2 or 3 different, and then shoot it with a ground-penetrating radar, and if that's true, we'll know. Which means instead of going 10 or 15 or 20 feet deep, you can go 200 or 300 feet deep, or also go through clay or granite.
Wow, yeah.
So that's what's been on my mind. So if you know
Yeah.
anybody that wants to work with me just to do some tests, and if that turns out, then you know what, I may get one. But I don't want to spend what it costs to buy one and not be certain, you know.
Yeah. Well, you know, all I
Okay, I paused it once again just to state these drawings. These are the original drawings of John Brewer of the mummified giants that he found in the Brewer's Cave, and that this is original disclosure of the Brewer's Caves through Robert and Terry Carter here, and that this is a massive headpiece that was on the giants. This was a queen. And then I believe there's also a king, a prince. There's a whole bunch of them. We'll just give it a little context here, and I shall let it continue.
I know somebody's got one of them accurate locators, probably like what you got. It's not a true.
It's not. The true one goes on a real high frequency.
Yeah, I don't know if yours is the same deal, but they have to take a shot. They have to take a shot they have to grid the ground and take a shot every 6 inches, foot, whatever they do, and then keep the same.
Well, this one will go. You have to grid the ground off, but you can do it both ways. You can just keep pulling the trigger, or you could just run it like a camcorder and walk with it.
Oh, huh.
Mm-hmm. But that's quite a bit of work. You got to go over it about 4 or 5 times to see if the anomaly stays the same or reappears, because the magnetic flux is always changing, and you may go over it and hit it, and then go over it and miss it. But
I paused it once again here, as this, I believe, is an original gold tablet from the Brewer's Cave, looking very, very Proto-Sumeric, almost Hebrewic, but yeah, it's yet more evidence, and there's some more of these gold tablets coming out of the Brewer's Cave. So this is one more site within America of gold tablets in these caves with these lost giants and the Proto-Sumerian Greek languages.
if it repeats, then you know you got a target.
Yeah.
And the problem with that too is if, say, you have a target, it also sometimes throws a shadow. But again, my unit won't. I mean, if you lock onto a target, it's going to be there. And I measured that one tunnel and told them it was 22 feet deep. And when they core drilled,
so I'll pause it again just so you can see. I think this is the back of that original gold tablet, and more what's looking Proto-Sumeric language on it. Potential Proto-Greek as well coming out of some of what's seen there, and runic language. And you'll see that even more in the coming images that are about to be shown in here.
it was 21 feet deep. So
Really? He was pretty close.
Yeah. I was real close on the depth, and but anyway, I wish I could get out more.
Well, I know that feeling, man. I said this was going to be the year I was going to get out, and that didn't happen next year.
Yeah. You know what you have to do with stories, and I thought about this a lot, and I checked out a lot of things. So, you know, you read a story that says, yeah, the bandits were off the stage, and then they run, and the posse went after them, and
There's another one, Protos.
Yep.
They shot it out with them, and then the posse went home, and the sheriff pursued and killed them, and the guy before he died tried to tell them, but they could never find it. Well, 9 out of 10 times the sheriff killed them and took the loot and buried it.
Yep.
And then later he retired, because a lot of the sheriffs in those days especially had either been crooks or criminals.
Yep. You're right.
And so a lot of those stories you really have to wow. Not that there's not a lot of stuff out there.
And now this is original Brewer's Cave footage. This is the one time they went into the Brewer's Cave, I believe, in the 80s, 90s, maybe even early 2000s. I'm not entirely sure. I think it was actually the 80s or 90s that this was recorded and happened. But yeah, that's why it's VHS remastered original Brewer's Cave footage right here that everyone is about to witness.
I know there are, but what the heck, you know?
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking next spring that I might be renting me a ground penetrating radar. So if I do, I'll get with you, and you can do some experiments with it.
Yeah, I would love to do that. Because if it turns out that it works, then what we can do is we'll do enough tests and know the parameters, and we can. Because like the problem I'm having is sorting monoatomic gold from colloidal gold, from gold veins, from placer gold, from solid gold.
Yeah.
Up to a certain point, I can tell.
So, I'm happy as a pig in rolling around. And anywho, hearing him talk about how the penetrating radar, and this is so key, that the differences between the monoatomic, the colloidal, and the regular solid gold. So that's just huge that he was mentioning that these are the issues of him being able to find the different densities, and the fact that I myself have produced all three, that I will be able to actually probably help with identifying the different 3 resonant frequencies of these types of gold.
Tell the relative strength of a target. I say, well, this one's stronger than this one, this one's stronger than this one, this one's stronger than this one. But I hit a site that it probably is real, but the ore that sits on top of it's 200 feet by 100 feet about. And it's so rich that I couldn't tell you where the solid bars are. Because
it's masked by the other stuff, huh?
It totally is. But if the ground penetrating radar works like it's supposed to, coupled with this technology, then it would actually define where the bars were.
So how would you put the frequency into the ground? Just with that machine, or you got?
Yeah. I actually drive a probe into the ground, and then I send one, and I don't have to. I can just send them straight out of the machine. And what happens is, because of the atomic spacing of gold or any element, I hit it with its own frequency and slam it, and then the atoms start vibrating. And what they do is they produce an electromagnetic field around them when that happens.
And then it magnifies, huh?
And I detect the field, and so I can tell the width of the field, the length of the field, the depth of the field. Yeah. And the beauty of it is, since every element has a different atomic space, and none of them will respond to frequency unless it's right on the money.
Really?
So, and the reason, oh, absolutely, you got to be within 1/10 of a hertz when you're using low frequencies, or it won't work.
Huh.
And the reason all of the other resonators that people have built, and they sell for between $1,000 and $40,000, and frankly, they don't work. And the reason they don't work is because none of them, all of them will have like a gold setting, a silver setting,
yeah.
and
but
it never
just
changes.
One frequency, yeah.
Well, the thing is, it's still wrong because gold will resonate at this frequency at 70 degrees.
Huh.
And the minute it gets colder or hotter, the atomic spacing changes and its resonant frequency totally changes. And when you're dealing with, say, okay, glass is 0.2 of a hertz different than quartz. Quartz is 0.3 of a hertz different than gold. Gold is 2.5 to 0.3 of a hertz different than iridium. And the next step is uranium. They're so damn tight.
Yeah.
You don't know your thermal spacing. You're going to lock on to dog poop. And dig a hole and say, oh, damn. And they all do.
Huh.
When I lock onto a target that says it's gold, and of course I sell my services to a lot of people, I charge them quite a bit of money, but I give them 100% guarantee that if there's no gold there, they get all their money back.
Huh.
That's how certain I am with what I do. But so if they dig and they don't find a gold bar, then I take the soil and analyze it and prove to them that there's gold there.
Yeah.
They can do that. But that's how accurate my technology is.
Wow. Well, it makes sense shooting the ground with frequencies and that, and they're resonating it, make it magnify, because I know you can do the same thing with metal objects, just putting electricity into the ground. It magnifies all that stuff, and with a metal detector, it'll make it look bigger than what it is. So a metal detector will search deeper.
Absolutely,
it'll find things deeper. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. So what happens? Yeah. So you're stimulating something, and I've watched it, and I found out another thing too. Most people, and I don't think I've seen the exception, that uses a resonator, LRL, use a square wave, which is a serious mistake. Because when you use a square wave, you've got so many harmonics, it'll activate the gold and the iridium and the quartz and the glass and the uranium and everything in that neighborhood. And you can never define it. I mean, my first resonator I built 8 years ago did that. And then I would go out and dig, and then I would have it assayed, and I started finding those elements. And when I finally did my spreadsheets on all the elements where I could sit there and look at them and see how tight they are, I was, oh my God, no wonder. And so now, and then of course, you know, the ground temperature between 11 and 20 feet is real stable. Year around. So if it's that deep, you can lock onto it. So incredibly accurate.
Yep.
And then between that and up, then of course you've got to do some calculations. But I finally found another method to detect it that is not affected by thermal spacing.
What's that?
I'm not going to keep that a secret.
Okay.
I tested it in the lab, and what I did is I tested gold that I froze, and then I tested gold in the oven at 2,000 degrees, and both of them locked onto the gold.
Huh.
But most of the time I don't do that because I can calculate the temperature close enough that it's not a problem for me.
Yeah.
And so I'd take gold or silver, and I would freeze it, and then I'd take it to 40 degrees. Then another piece 40 degrees, another piece that was below freezing, another piece that was like 90 degrees, and so on. And the frequency changes quite a bit when you start messing with it.
Really?
With every element, yeah. So if you're looking, let's say you were looking for Gordon Smith's find down there at Mount Trumbull, and he says it's in an ice cave. Well, thing is, gold wouldn't read the same in there. Copper wouldn't read the same in there. Would not read the same in there. The whole scale would go up on frequency, including the water. So you'd be picking up water if you set it for water, but you would not pick up that ice.
Wow.
So, but
Man, you've done a lot of research over the years, a lot.
I have.
You have.
Like a cloistered monk, I just never quit until I started working for me every time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I've got it mastered now, but something I'll still learn more and more and more as time goes on.
Yeah, well, that's what you do too. You just sit down and take stuff, analyze it, and pick it apart till you figure it out.
I do. That's true. That's what you got to do.
Yeah.
That's what science is all about. I took a friend of mine had built a miniature of the Ark of the Covenant. Okay. Up in Delta, Colorado. He lives the other side of Delta. And I says, well, what do you have for the innards? And he says, monoatomic gold and platinum. And he bragged that it had 0.6 of a volt. And I said, Lamar, I've been wanting to do this test for a very long time. And he says, what? And I says, I want to resonate it at those frequencies and see, and it'll take on a charge. Because when you start slamming the atoms, negative and positive, it's just like rubbing two magnets past each other. It's going to create gas, and you're going to produce electricity. He says, okay. So I took a temperature reading with my thermal detector. I set my frequencies for platinum and gold. I was running 2 out of it at the same time, about 10 octaves apart. And so I was using 1 watt, and in 5 minutes I brought the voltage up to 615 volts of my capacitor.
You're kidding. Wow.
So then when I got home, I finally realized that using 1 watt was fine, and I can go a great distance, but I found out that 1 watt, if you say I buried some tire weights outside and some lead shot, and a big old brick of lead that weighed 10 pounds. And I went out there and picked up the tire weights and the BBs, but it would not pick up the brick of lead. And I thought, I don't have enough power to activate it. So I built another unit that put out 150 watts. That's 150 times more powerful than Jericho 1 unit. And so then I went out there and plugged into the ground and charged it and pulled up my antennas, and guess what? It never picked up any of the lead weights. It would only pick up the lead brick.
Really?
Because what happened is it took on such a greater charge because it could have had the power to repeat it.
It took it all, huh?
It eclipsed everything else, and when I could only pick up the lead bar. So after that, I called Lamar, and I says, what's the voltage in your capacitor? And he checked it, and I said, I want to see if I can charge it from Manti.
Sorry, I just paused it there as there's questions. This is from the Terry Carter channel, and this is rest in peace, Robert. This is Robert speaking, and he was a good friend of the Brewers, John Brewer, and the Brewers Cave, and that he has now passed. So he gave Terry Carter permission to release this upon his death, which just happened this past week. And we're halfway through, or 3/4 way through the first video, and there is a second one as well that Terry has released of literally of Robert on his deathbed that preceded this one. So I'll play it right after. And yeah, like just a genius of an individual, like how much he knows about the monoatomics, electricity, radio frequencies, even talks about John Hutchinson in one part of it and whatnot. Just absolutely genius individual, and that he got started out with the Brewers Caves, and that's how he got first exposed to giants. And all the drawings that you see are the original drawings by Brewer himself, who discovered the Brewers Caves, and that before he passed them along to Robert, who is best friends with Brewer, and that he subsequently passed them along to Terry Carter, and that this is it's all legit. This is the Brewers Cave system. So the links for all Terry Carter's channel, where he's literally got hundreds of videos about this stuff throughout Utah, throughout Arizona, throughout Nevada, and it just ties in further and further to what I was going on about the other day with Paul Cook and everyone, and the geoglyphs and the pyramid complex city of the Grand Canyon. Here's the second topographical map. This one's even better than the original here, of the alignments of these temples, these pyramids in the Grand Canyon. And this is in Utah, right close, or I believe maybe it's Illinois. There's so many of them, it's insane. But this location that we're being shown right here, this is the Brewers Cave. As I play this, I'm gonna look it up and see what state that this is in, and we shall continue.
To Delta, Colorado. We laughed, and so he says, okay. So we took a voltage reading, and I turned it on for 45 minutes and charged it 78 volts over 200 miles away.
Wow.
And the irony of the whole thing is, it charged every piece of platinum for 200 miles in every direction, minimum.
Huh.
So we're also dealing with some of the Tesla stuff where he could pull energy out of the ground.
Wow. So doing that, how you getting it? It's got to ride some kind of magnetic frequency or something to there, doesn't it? Or how would that do that?
Well, okay. When you take atoms and you slam them, negative, positive,
Mm-hmm.
they're charged. What happens when you do that, it produces an electromagnetic field that forms around the cluster.
Mm-hmm.
And I can resonate not only atoms, I can also resonate the valence shell. It's a different frequency, but I have the frequencies of everything, of every element, including the valence shell frequency.
Huh.
You do that, man, you produce enormous amounts of energy. I can get glass to repel my antenna like a magnet.
Really?
A foot away.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Man,
wow.
You've been doing some experimenting.
I have.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot of work on that.
Wow.
And I did one site once for a guy, and it was for your friend, Dan Nelson.
Oh, uh-huh.
And I said, yeah, Dan. I said, all he had, as far as we know, was an ore body. Okay. I said, you probably think this is glorified dowsing because
Sorry, paused it one more time. Yes, so the Brewers Cave is in Utah. Central Utah is where this ancient tomb is found. And right at the beginning, you saw those foothill, almost pyramidal foothill, small mountain area that they were doing the LiDAR, ground penetrating radar search of it. I believe that is the actual Brewers Cave above it location. And yes, Central Utah is where John Brewer found his ancient tomb, and these are all his original drawings that we are seeing and witnessing here, passed on to Robert, who has recently deceased and left this realm, and bless his soul for all that he has shared with us, and Terry Carter for his continued hard work. Links are in the descriptions.
connected to electronics, and I've got these 2 swivel antennas that are plugged into the machine. And I said, I want to show you that it's not. And he says, okay. So I locked onto his target. And I said, now, all elements attract with this technology, but when you get real close, they all repel. And what's going to happen is I check that antenna when you point at the target at say 10 or 20.
And what we were looking at there was original recordings of them going into the Brewer's Cave through first using dowsing rods, and then to find the tunnel entrance, and then confirming with LiDAR. And then this was them going in, I believe, with the robot camera at one point, and that's the footage that were being released for the first time, is when they actually went in. The one time they went in and looked at the Brewer's Cave. They didn't take anything. They didn't want to disturb them. They just Robert talks about it more in the first video, which is the second video that I'm about to play as this one finishes, literally of him in his deathbed and the last recording he ever made. This was a follow-up video that Terry Carter has done since then, and just absolutely epic disclosure.
Feet away, it won't point at it. It'll blow on your face because it's repelling, and you'll have to hold it manually to make it point at the target. He says, really? And I said, yeah. So we got close to it, and I had it in the antennas, and he says, you know, Robert, I can't make it point at it. It's pushing it away. And I said, of course. It's interesting, huh? And actually, that's a form of anti-gravity.
Wow.
In itself, too. So, but your frequency's got to be extremely accurate, or you'll miss, because it's a real fine window there.
That's what it sounded like, what you're saying, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that makes sense what you're saying, but you're still talking way over my head, but what you're saying, a lot of it's making sense.
Okay.
You've done a lot of research, and you've done a lot.
Yeah, that was fun. Well, you know what? I turned the lemon into lemonade. I got so damn sick with arthritis, I couldn't do anything. So,
really?
yeah, I just sat on the web and researched it for a couple of years, and then I got better. I'm a lot better now.
Well, that's good.
So I didn't waste any time, you know.
Yeah, well, that's good.
So, but anyway. Well, hey, listen, we'll have to get out sometime and look for some stuff.
Yeah, I'd like to. This next spring, if I get that ground penetrating radar, I'll give you a call, and after I'm done using it, we'll do some experimenting with it, what you need to do.
Oh, that would be fun. I mean, lots of fun. I want to know on that if that works. And,
yeah.
I got no reason. I mean, these guys were professionals, and they swear on their mother's grave that it
yeah.
No reason, and it makes a lot of sense that it would work.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, seeing it carry with ancient antiquities and giants and records and all that stuff, you know, it's been my observation over the years that there's so many politics that are played there and so many legal ramifications. I don't see how you could ever bring something like that to light.
Yeah, you're probably right. I just, for myself, would just like to see something, just to know that it does exist.
Yeah.
So and you know, I've told you before, you know, you know, from what I read from you and from other people and that, you know, that I'm in the wrong spot. But in my mind, I think I've found Brewer's Cave on the east side. I think
wow.
I have.
Wow.
You know, everything that I've found fits. You know, I've found his old candles way down deep, dug down deep, 10 feet deep. I found the old candles, broke into an old tunnel, found dynamite zip cord where it got blown in. And the clues that I had, I think that I found it, but I'm in the tunnel, but I don't know which direction to go from there, and it's so tough digging that I need a ground penetrating radar, so that's why I'm going to be getting one next spring.
Okay. Yeah.
Just to verify that there is a cavern there. So.
Yeah. Well, when you get one, let me know. We'll go do some tests.
Okay.
And good luck on getting the legal thing to get one open. You probably get whatever.
Yeah, I know. I'll find out what happens. First, I got to break into it and see if there's even really anything there, and then that's where I got to bring in the archaeologists and go from there, see what happens.
Right.
So these are drawings of some of the symbols that were found on the coffins.
Well, it was good talking to you, Robert.
Here.
Likewise. Have a good winter.
You too.
So
talk to you later.
Bye.
So yeah, at the start here, this is part of the caves. This is actual he verifies that these photos came from John Brewer. That's one of the giants that was in there. All of these gold tablets and artifacts all came from in the Brewer's caves. This one himself, Robert owned and possessed, and that's his authentication of it. This is them over in Utah with the ground penetrating radar and I believe like a federal service of some sort there. Finally verifying Brewer's cave now that both Robert and John Brewer himself long passed, and that they're getting this done, and that this right here, these are John Brewer himself's drawings of the mummies within the Brewer's cave that he's found, that he did not dare disturb himself. Some of the gold tablets, Brewer's kids, I guess, have sold lots of the artifacts supposedly online to different people. Who knows? Classic of the stories that happen with it, but of course they have to either accept it as calling it a fake or a debunked or whatever for legal reasons, because if they actually sold these artifacts and that they're legitimate ancestral native or of some peoples or hominids or giant nephilims, who knows? And yeah, so here's part 2, which is Robert. Oops. Oh my goodness. Sorry, accidentally closed it. That's frustrating. When you have everything lined up, of course, always when you're going live, something always goes wrong, right? So, all right, hold on. That is why we have intermissions, right? Intermissions. So I will be right back with it reloaded. And boom, just like that, we're back, and I've got it. So this is the deathbed confessions of Robert. The Nephilim giants are still alive.
From Robert Shrewsbury, or Robert Reed, as some people know him by, telling me that he had congenital heart disease and he didn't know how much longer he'd be around, and he wanted to share some things with us. So my work schedule is crazy. I work 24/7, and I have a hard time even putting these videos out and getting to interviewing people. But I made a point to go visit Robert because Robert's a wealth of information, done a lot of studying, a lot of research, a lot of scientific experiments. And, if Robert had something to share, I wanted to get that. So this is the video. Parts of the video that he did for us that he wanted to share with us, And sadly, it wasn't too much longer after this that Robert did pass away. At a young age, Robert helped uncover some giants that they'd found. And because of that activity in his life, that drove him to researching and figuring out who these giants were. And so a lot of this video is some of his research, some of his findings about the Nephilim. So with that said, Robert, I'm gonna miss you and thank you for sharing what you have shared with us. And I hope you guys enjoy this. Thanks. So I'm with Robert Shrewsbury. He invited me to come down and talk with him, and he's going to share some information about some giants and things near where he lives and some things he had some dealings with. And with that said, I'll just let Robert tell the story, because it's something I've been interested in a long time, but I never have really known the whole story, and let's just see what happens here. And with that said, Robert, take it away.
Well, the first time I met John Brewer was when I was in my 20s. I was pretty young. And David introduced me to him. And he asked me to help him because he says, Johnny Brewer has this cave and I'd like to have it. And we could work together and we could have it. And eventually, you know, he says, you're a good talker. Maybe you can. I said, okay. So we went over there and he was working at the sewer plant. And he always worked graveyard in Moroni, Utah. And so we started that. We would visit him periodically over a period of years. And finally, when I moved to Los Angeles. There was a lot of good work there. Johnny Brewer wrote me a letter. Well, we always corresponded in writing also because he liked us. And he says, I'm going to send you a wooden sword that I carved. And I'll send one to David. And in the handle, it takes 2 maps to get to the site. And he says, so you'll both have to have both of them if you're going to access the cave. So pretty soon there was a sword in the mail. And then later there was one for David. My sword said number 1, Robert. David said number 2, sword number 2. Anyway, so that's how that started out. But and Johnny Brewer, well, he meant well. And that's how I come across it. Just one of those things. Is it a fluke? I don't know.
So those that don't know John Brewer and what he found and whatnot, can you tell us a story about that?
Oh, yeah. Earl John Brewer lived in Moroni, Utah. He was out digging some arrowheads in one area, and a little deeper, and he noticed an opening. Or can it be a little cave or something? So he penetrated it, and that turned out to be the cave. And there were some people in there, a woman and a man. He's about 13 feet tall. She's about 13 feet tall. I call them the Nephilim, and I got a good reason to believe they're related. And they call themselves, from what I've gathered, Wabanaki also, but that's the name of their confederacy, not the name of, because the Nephilim are not all of the same race. They belong to a confederacy.
So you're saying Wabanaki, not Anunnaki?
Well, that's another name for them.
The same name, huh?
Related. I know that the Algonquin people, I'm related to them from my mother's side, claim, and it's accepted by more than 40 tribes, that they're the oldest known confederacy on Earth. And what do they call their confederacy? Wabanaki. There was some connection somewhere, the way I look at it. And as far as Johnny Brewer told me factually on a stack of Bibles that when he was up there at one time going into the cave, there were 3 men standing at a distance from him observing him. He looked at them, and then they walked over to him and talked to him. They said, well, please don't bring anybody here unauthorized. And so then they turned, they walked away, and then it looked like he says, they walked behind an invisible wall.
Really?
Both of them disappeared that way. Later, they came back and talked to him and took him into their underground city.
Do you say what he's seen in the underground city?
Oh, he just says it was a very beautiful place. He says the people in there have all kinds of powers, mental powers, to do things.
So is this near his cave?
It is. It's right there. I won't say that.
Okay.
It's there, and it's from my detection work, I found all of those installations that are underground cities are housed with silicon carbide. Now, I don't know if you know what that is.
I don't.
It's beautiful, but it's like a gemstone. It's found in nature, and it can also be made. And it a diamond is 10 hardness. Silicon carbide is 9.8. It's pretty hard stuff. Carbide, they use it for cutting blades. Things like that.
Probably 9.8.
Anyway,
What he's
that's it.
underground cities are made of.
I can't prove anything I'm saying on that
Right.
regard. But I have detected those all over the place. Whenever you like, what Johnny had was a burial. The people live underground. They live in underground cities. He has a burial. So they bury him up topside. They don't bury him in their homes in the cities. And there'll be a tunnel underneath, about 100 feet deep, another one underneath that, about 6 layers deep, about 1,700 feet long. And they're up here. They're at the Skinwalker Ranch, the Green Frog Ranch, and all those goofy places. What I think is a phenomena that comes out of those places, a strange phenomena, I think it's a high-tech scarecrow. Keep people out. That's what I might take on it. But anyway, excuse me. Yeah, and so they keep them away, and most people fall for it. You know, John Hutchinson has one too in Arizona. Another scarecrow. But I have tested all those. I went up to the Skinwalker Ranch about 30 years ago with an EM83, and I ran it over, and I just held tunnel after tunnel after tunnel
Really?
after tunnel. Oh yeah. To tell you a little story about how it works, the EM83, I have one. Anyway, there's a site that I took on a partner with last year, and there was an actual treasure, Spanish, and I had done it by Dalvin, and it's a couple 100 miles from here. So we all drove out there, and we landed on the GPS was a big Spanish turtle.
Wow.
I hit it right dead on the money. So, and then I'd marked where the tunnel was, and the room is about 35 feet deep at the top of the room, and so on and so on. I marked it in detail, and there was no more thought about it. But a year had gone by, and they came by here about a month ago, roughly, and partners, and he says, "We want more evidence. We just don't have enough faith in your dowsing." I said, "Oh, okay, well." Notwithstanding, I doused his house as a blind test and located his things. People get doubtful, and I'm not blaming them.
Right.
They're nice people.
Yeah.
But so I said, well, you have to hire this guy. He's at Geo Western. He'll go out there with an EM83.
Is he still alive? Old
He is Gary Hewitt.
Gary Hewitt, yeah.
So Gary Hewitt goes out there with them. They paid him, and he doused exactly what I doused.
Really?
The exact location. Tunnel here, room here, metal here. I just blew him away.
Yeah.
I says, well, are you guys doubtful now? I said, oh, not now. Hey, they'll hit us sometime in April, or May, or whatever. But but I took that same machine. Well, I have one like it. It needs to be repaired right now, so I can't use it. But the Skinwalker Ranch, and I just see a tunnel after tunnel after tunnel after tunnel after tunnel.
Mm.
They're endless.
Mm.
And there's metals in them. So I'm saying, okay, I'm doing some scientific stuff. It's not just my doubts.
No, yeah, you're.
I like verification. Because
Yeah.
maybe I'm a doubting Thomas too. So
Yeah.
that's all.
Wow, I have to pause it right there and just say that he states that he took his ground penetrating radar machine and went to Skinwalker Ranch, and that there was tunnel after tunnel after tunnel after tunnel after tunnel, and they all had metal in them. So that's pretty fascinating stuff. And yeah, I'm just I've been putting some of the Medicine Hat Badland Guardians and trying to get a couple of the pyramids, Grand Canyon, which is close to Utah, where Robert did most of his work, and where he's also talking about the underground legends of the giants and the Nephilim that is about to come up. He's about to talk some of the most. I'm not going to interrupt him. I'm just going to let him say what he's saying, but he's saying that these underground cities, they have like a 9.8 hardness of this crystal metal something or other that they were made out of, and that they still live down there, and that they live underneath the mounds and underneath the mountains. So potentially that underneath here, where there's rumors to be cities, and that they literally covered that cave entrance up, there could still be these different Nephilim giants and humanoid giant races and demigods, who knows? But yeah, I'm gonna shut up and let this man speak.
But anyway, I met John Brewer, and that's all that stuff that's come up and come up and come up, and then finally, wow. All right. Anything else?
So you saying that they told him, please don't bring anybody here without the rite of passage. How does one get the rite of passage?
Well, they said don't bring anybody. I think they're talking about the mummies.
Oh,
Yeah. And as far as the city, it's they have technologies that you can't even.
you won't be able to find the city.
Well, listen, did you know Charlene Hunt?
Yes,
I knew her really very well.
I didn't know her very well, but I've met her a few times
Yeah.
through Gary Clifton.
I asked her one time, Gary Clifton, yeah. I says, you live in Sigurd? She says, yes. I'm always looking for evidence. And she says, yeah, I do. And I says, you've lived there all your life, haven't you? She says, yeah. I'm still living in the house I was born in.
Mm.
And she was about 80 at the time, I think, somewhere there. And I says, have you ever seen anything strange across I-70 into the foothills there to the north? And that's where she was. She'd shoot from the hip. She didn't care if you believed her or disbelieved her. If you disbelieved her,
She didn't care, huh?
yeah. So she says, Robert, she says, I have seen the ground shimmy when I was over there. And then it would be a gaping hole there, like something out of Star Trek.
Hmm.
And then these silver discs would go shooting out and then hover up in the sky. And she says, one time they were doing that, and there was a cigar-shaped one, and these little silver discs would go in and out of the cigar-shaped one like it was a transport, and then back down into the ground. And she says, Robert, I have seen that at least 100 times in my lifetime.
Wow.
I tested it out. I
It's a
picked up
cigar-shaped
the silicon carbide,
mother
I picked up
craft.
all the burials,
These underground cities.
and they can be picked up at the EM83. Again, anybody that wants to can hire Gary Hewitt. I'll tell them where to go. If they're doubting Thomas's, they got some people. They just love to doubt. On the other hand, there's so much sci-fi BS.
Yeah.
How do you know what to believe? But
Right.
I always say, test it. Test the water. If you want to know the truth, spend the time and the money. That's what I told these guys. So they went out there and tested it. And then they took the well rig that I had, and they drilled a hole down 35 feet and popped through the top, dropped the lipstick camera down, got a picture of it.
Mm.
Well, I don't think I doubt. I'm a lot better today than I was a month ago, and a month before that, and a month before that. I get better all the time.
Yeah.
It used to be really difficult for me to dow something that was a small target, like 50 pounds. It's not now. But something that was like tons or 1,000 pounds wasn't so bad. Now I can get the small stuff too. It doesn't matter. So anyway, that's anything else on the Brewer Cave. I'm going to give you the location of it today.
Okay.
And it's just for you. I'm not going to give
Yeah.
These are some artifacts.
Yep.
So
a lot of stories about Brewer Cave, what was in there. We had the bark, one of the boxes that came out there tested between 50 and 350 BC. You had some artifacts tested.
yes,
Tell me about them artifacts that you had tested, and
I had a lead plate. I still have it tested. That came out of the Brewer Cave with 3 other lead plates and then 4 rectangles. They're probably floating around the web someplace. And Frank Aon in Santa Fe, New Mexico he's a forensic specialist. I could even print you out a copy of that.
I think I have a copy of that.
Okay. And it's authentic.
He said it was ancient.
Yes, ancient. So, what can you say? Say they're all wet? I don't think so.
What else did? What's some of the stories that Brewer told you about inside the cave while he was excavating it, and things that happened? What he's seen? How long it took him? How long was he down in there? Why did he keep on? I mean, I listened to Brewer's story, and there's not a lot of people who would do what he did. You know, it was like he knew something and he was driven.
He was tenacious. He was a doer.
There was not many people in this world who will do what he did. And that's why he got to see what he got to see, but it destroyed his life. So tell me about that.
Well, he went there and he did the digging, and then he could see the opening, but it was kind of like a drop off. You couldn't get to it. Like a cave that went in and then get clear over here. So he rigged some equipment to do that. It's still on the site. So he dropped down and hung on to the rope and made it over to there. And then once he got in, he could see a stairway that went down. And so he very carefully, walked down the stairs. And then one of them was like a shaft. It was a trick. So if you missed it, you'd end up. Okay. And then also, before that, it was something that was carved round like this and highly polished. It was really big. And it went into a shaft. And if you slip on that, you won't ever. You're gone. That was a trap that kept you out. Once you got through that, then you still had to go. He had to have been a tenacious son of a gun.
Heck yeah.
All by himself?
Yeah.
He's gutsy.
Yep.
And so they got through that, and then he got down in there. And it was a lot of there was records, other records there too. And so he looked at them and he took some out. Yeah. That's all I know.
So I know that the majority of the pictures floating around on the internet of John Brewer's stuff came directly from you. The majority of them came from you.
Yeah.
And so one of the things on there is because, and I know that because you gave me a copy of them years and years ago. And I appreciate that.
A lot of people don't want to mention my name ever because they want to glorify themselves in self-aggrandizement. I'm not looking for that. But yeah, most of them came from me.
The majority
most of them came from Brewer to me.
Yeah. So there was one in there that showed the drawing of the inside of his cave, and it showed that kind of a death trap thing right there.
Oh, yeah.
Right at the bottom of the stairs. If you didn't know, I'm assuming at one time, you know, that it was covered with some sticks or cloth or, you know,
it may have
been dirt, so that if when you hit that bottom step, you didn't know that was a trap, man, you fell to your death.
Oh, you would.
And so you know, there was things like that, but I'm sure that thing would already been triggered when he got into it, because he found it, you know, thousands of years later, the one that was put there, you know.
He did.
But and I'm sure the Indians had found it and got in there before him.
They usually cover them up because it's taboo.
Yeah. So do you know, did he ever try to explore that bottomless hole, that death trap thing? Do you know if, you know?
I don't know what he did. He may have bridged it with something and left it there. It's just been a long, I don't know. So, but he was a tenacious son of a gun to do what he did.
I don't know. There ain't
very few people
would spend the time to do what he did. That's why he found what he did, is because he spent the time. Most people would have given up.
Yeah, I think he was destined to do that.
100%. I believe he was destined to do that.
Yeah, I think so.
There is not many people who would spend the time to do what he did.
Well, now for whatever purpose, it's.
Sorry, just had to pause it there and reaffirm what is destiny. You cannot argue it. It is real. It does happen. And destiny is that we are in this time of transition into a new age, and the knowledge of the past human, the giants, the image that we were created in, and everything in between, and whether it is the monoatomics, that Robert actually speaks deeply of these monoatomics, which is quite awesome, and that, you know, we're finding out everything all at once. It's happening, and that this just is more evidence of both the Mormon story as well as the Father Crespi collections, as well as the Illinois caves, the Inca stones, and so many more, that literally, and the Kincaid caves and the entire temple complex of the pyramids of the Grand Canyon, Isis temple right there, as well as all of the geoglyphology and the Medicine Hat Badland Guardians that I'm going to be going to exploring. It's all coming out at once here, and maybe they're still connected to the stars, as they've always been connected to the stars, and building their macro structures to the stars. And Robert here believes that he's given testimony of over 100 times they witnessed these Tic Tacs going into these cylinder crafts or something. Just absolutely phenomenal stuff. And that he also giving the disclosure and the final actual evidence and truth to the Brewers caves, and that this is all true, and the John Brewer's story is true, and that they're still there, that they respected them, they didn't disturb them, they didn't try to make money off of the corpses. No, they respected them and left them there, and that they're still there. And bless Terry Carter for his work and continue bringing it forward. And please do go over to the Terry Carter channel. I'll post the link in the live chat again, and it's in the descriptions. And subscribe and watch all of his amazing videos. There's so much more. And tell him that I sent you there, and to please come on Autodidactic Alchemist with me and Campbell. And we also got to get him in touch with Leak Project. And on that note, back to him.
It's going to be in your hands. You want to be careful. The system could shut the whole thing down, and John Q. Public would see nothing. You need to video it first, take pictures.
Oh, 100%. It needs to be shared with the world.
Yeah, so you got that ahead of time and multiple copies.
Yeah.
Because I know they'll do that. You kids, they will not let that information out. For one thing, there's these crystal balls in there, crystal spheres strewn around, and there's these little cups in there. They're solid with a little depression in the top. And if you stick one of those crystal balls on one of those cups, it'll light up and glow.
Really?
Mm-hmm. If there's still thorium left in it. And I know how that works. I've even seen a NASA scientist demonstrate it.
Really?
Les Matthews. He showed it to me and Stephen Jepson and Donnell Adair over there in Mayfield. He had a rope, looked like a pen, not that tall. On the end, it looked like an eraser, but it was a crystal. And he pressed something, slid it up, and it glowed brighter than any LED you'll ever see.
Really?
And I said, Les, what is that? That can't be an LED. And he said, hell no, it's not. He says, no LD will get this bright. He said, that's an emerald. He says, you know how nuclear works? I said, yeah, you have beryllium and boron. Beryllium speeds up the neutrons, and the boron slows it down. That's the modulator. And he says, oh, that emerald crystal is beryllium crystal. And he says, I have a little BB-sized piece of plutonium at the top, and when they come together, it lights it up. That's the source of light. There's technologies that you're dealing with that I don't think they want to come out, and that would be hushed up if they did excavate it. Just keep that in mind. I've done my research.
Yeah.
And but anyway, it'll be interesting.
So I know that Brewer was always looking for a big repository on the west side of the valley here, because he found a map.
There is one.
He found a map in his cave that said so, and you talked about that.
He had a map, and I don't have that map, that shows 7 locations. Okay, and he tried to get into that one. He did make an entrance, and he saw typically those crystal spheres on the floor, and then the big tall doorways. And he made a few footsteps in, then he had a bad feeling about it. So he got out of there, and then there's another one above Mount Pleasant. I can tell you where that one is. Maybe you won't have the tenacity to penetrate it. It could be on private property, though. I don't know.
Yeah.
But, I even have the symbol that was written on it. He gave that to me.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You know what that looks like. They all have a symbol over them, and the symbols are not the same. They're different place to place. They don't have a piece of paper to write on their head. Now, I'm sure some of this you'll want to take off.
Yeah.
For your own personal. I went up there, and I think it's covered with slough off. If you can find it, that's what it'll be.
So this is the one up here. What the symbol? Do you know what the symbol looked like?
Well,
I know he was looking for a symbol for the one.
I don't have
west.
that symbol or this one. That's the one above Mount Spring City.
Spring City. Huh.
Yeah, Spring City. It's one of the 7.
Ah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Here in this valley, there's been some people who have found them, and then they've been collapsed in, or some of these tunnels, or dynamite.
They stripped some of them.
They stripped them. They took them out.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, yeah. They fake them.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a secret. I can detect them, and you know that.
Yeah.
And they're in a lot of places. Nevada, Arizona. Idaho. The Philippines.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's what the Japs were robbing.
Oh, really?
And that's what the Spaniards were robbing.
Hmm.
They were robbing the burials. That's how they got their loot. That's why you detect a Spanish treasure. I can detect it. I can tell it from that because the Spanish treasures have a signature. Everything does. For example, if I'm looking for a Spanish treasure, I don't set my system for gold. I set it for gunpowder.
Ah.
They all have it. And 9 out of 10 times they'll have bronze cannon.
Sorry, I just paused it quickly there to point out this is key stuff Robert's saying about how when treasure hunting, searching for anything that the Spanish were involved in, because the Spanish were raiding and looting all of these Nephilim and pre-cataclysm civilizations, gold and treasures, that anything that the Spanish then took and reburied or lost Spanish stolen looted gold was had gunpowder mixed in with it. So he would tune the frequency to be looking for gold, silver, and gunpowder in with the Spanish treasure hoards. And that I find it fascinating. He brings up also in the Philippines that they were doing this, as there's a lot of rumors of the Philippine gold and what the Japanese were doing in World War II and all of that gold, and the different esoteric and occult secret societies and all the treasured gold of Asia, China, and Vietnam, everywhere, but also the Philippines. Ben Fulford, the grandson of former Canadian Prime Minister, those that know Ben Fulford's work, he goes into that a lot. Anywho, the last 4 minutes of Robert's testimony, and then you can clearly see that he tells Terry a whole bunch more stuff off camera, and please do go subscribe to Terry's channel. Tell him I sent you, and let's have him on with me, Campbell, and also got to do one with me, him, and Rex, because that'd be epic. Let's get her done, and rest in peace, Robert. Bless your soul, man. Awesome individual. Thank you for this disclosure.
Once I got that established, then I check it for gold and silver. But the ones that they did around those tunnel areas have platinum in them and gems of all sorts, rubies and emeralds and sapphires, because they were taking the stuff out of those burials. And they found one early on that I read about in Bolivia, and it was so wealthy that it raised the average European's wealth, called Cerro de Oro, raised their wealth about 8 times.
Really?
It caused inflation, and they had to start vaulting the gold by orders of Spain. Just don't want to spend too much. Yeah, but they're in Ecuador. They're just both the underground people live all over the underground. They live everywhere, and some people accidentally hit their tunnels when they're drilling a well for water. So it sounds pretty far out, but I've done over 300 blind tests, and I pass it pretty good. I don't doubt what I'm detecting, because I've always been able to verify it with an EM83. And so, who are they? They're the Nephilim. In the Book of Enoch, it says they were put underground because they were causing trouble. So, it was forbidden for them to come. Anyway, so they live underground. The way I see it. Does government want that out? Of course not. I don't think they do. They don't tell us about it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not trying to be sci-fi. I'm listening to what I know and see and understand.
Right.
So, well, are you ready to get the information on the location?
Yeah.
I'll have to go in the other room. I may have to.
All right, so there it is. One more time. Here is Terry Carter Treasure Hunter YouTube channel. Go subscribe to Terry. He does absolutely epic work. You know, like he's earned the respect and the disclosure of so many of these treasure hunters, people that and their stories and experiences and the evidence that they've brought forward of different Spanish treasures, giants, treasure maps, and everything of this past catastrophism of what Egypt in times before that, most likely. What else was I quickly going to show? See, now it freezes. Why does it freeze? It goes from Twitter working fine and then all of a sudden freezes up. Thank you. I greatly appreciate it. And yes, so check out Terry Carter's YouTube. Let's get him on here. And now I remembered what I wanted to do. The last little bit to share here. Hopefully my computer lets us do it and doesn't freeze up. The Grand Canyon Pyramid Complex and what it really is. All these notifications, people messaging me on Instagram, I guess. So the Isis temple here. And you can see here in the center where they've covered up and built that wall. Oops, I don't know how quick that. Right here, the center that they actually covered up the main entrance within Isis temple. And this is the main structure, the main temple that you're able to see from the lookout points of like the Grand Canyon Park and whatnot. And that they actually went in the 50s or 60s, covered that up, and it's one of the entrances, and there's many of these entrances, specifically like the Kincaid discovery supposedly, but literally these are all along the Colorado River, and that this is another one that there's images now of it being covered up, and that they're bricking and walling them all up. And preventing anybody from getting in or seeing it, and that this is literally a complex of over 50 temples, past ginormous macro-sized like 5 and 4 sided step pyramids, and ruins of epic proportions that like these. It's undeniable, and that they're perfectly topographically and geographically aligned to the complete Orion constellation in the sky, and that they have these holy names. So here's one before. Once again, they covered it up there. You can see when it used to have the hole within the or the entrance of Isis temple, and just that this would have been full of water, and that there were these dams, what they call these buttes and fissures, that in fact were actually dams that filled this into a tropical lake paradise instead of a desert that it is today, desolate desert instead of a living metropolitan. And the same would have been for these sort of pyramids over in Egypt that I'll be going more in depth with Luke over at Ancient Historia and all of his discoveries of the pyramids around there. This image here is in Australia, and the Egyptian runes and carvings, and that there's also pyramids throughout Australia as well. That's a whole more series to go that I'll be discussing with Campbell. This is Pyramid Waterfall, I guess. I don't see a pyramid on that. And then, of course, we have the different mounds of South America and the mid-U.S. And this is another, just showing in around maybe Isis temple, maybe one of the surroundings, but that yeah, you can see that it's just crazy. And yeah, there's the old entrance, the headstones on top here, and this is just the Grand Canyon, literally right next to Utah, where all of these other structures are found, and all of these other giants and the different pyramids, temples, and everything. It's everywhere throughout the entire world, whether it's China, whether it's Korea, Japan, the US, Mexico. Look at this one. This one I experienced myself. You clap at it, it comes flying back at you. It's like nothing you've ever experienced. It's so cool. So much more there at Chichen Itza. It's not just this crazy pyramid. The entire complex there is just absolutely nuts. Everybody should visit it at some point. I believe this one's in Honduras or maybe Ecuador or somewhere Central South America. They're all over the place. And once again, Isis temple, but they're everywhere throughout. They go back. There's the Ottoman amphitheater. There is Apollo temple. There is Shiva temple. There is Jupiter temple. There is the Temple of Solomon is in here. And this one, and once again, is Isis temple. And some are even called pyramids. And that, like, look at how big and massive this whole area is. You're not allowed in here hiking without a guard guide with you. A parks guide you have to have with you. Oops. And that you're not allowed flying drones. It's a no-fly zone. Rex went there with a drone. They literally crashed it and pulled up an Apache helicopter on him. It's absolutely crazy. These underground cities and ruins are everywhere. It's the remnants of the pyramid builders from pre-cataclysm, Atlantis, Lemuria, and the times before. And on that note, I love you all. It is 12:12 a.m. In Alberta, Calgary right now. Look at that. Oh, now it's 12:13. Let's see. We've been going for an hour, 28 minutes. Oh, yes. Back to the main star of the show, though, is Robert and Terry Carter. And all the work that Terry Carter has been doing, just absolutely epic. And his works with Robert. So, and this is the Brewer's Cave, that these images of these Nephilim, and that if you see his videos here, like he goes back and all sorts of different stories, treasure hunter meetups, excavations. They've been through it all, and like they're every. It's his work is next level. You got to go subscribe if you haven't already. And he's even had issues with the FBI about gold claims that they don't want you to find. And yeah, the Illinois cave with we still got to get on for Egypt and America, autodidactic alchemist Harry Hubbard. And Harry Hubbard and Terry Carter have talked a whole lot as well. All of these artifacts in the Illinois cave. Look at that. See, I don't use Twitter, and Google's like, no, screw you. You're getting double the commercials. Ha 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 ha. Yeah. All right. So on that note, oh my God, yes. And check out, shout out Dutch Sense. We're going to have Dutch back on very soon, and we're going to have Dutch with myself, Paul Cook, and Campbell. And Campbell over at Autodidactic has actually found more of the Starfort type structures, the canals and everything through Louisiana and like off the throughout further following Dutch's original discovery in the Florida Panhandles there, and that they're everywhere. These macro star fort structures, and like all the way out throughout Micronesia, Polynesia, throughout Asia. They're everywhere. We're going to be talking to Dutch about it. And where was I going with that? Oh yeah, Paul Cook and my awesome interview with him. And we're going to be doing more of that, more pyramid talks, more geoglyphology, and all of that to come. Thank you everybody who donated today. Bless all of your souls. We got about 3/4 of the way of the 400 that I needed. We're at about 315 right now. So thank you everybody. That is a huge help, and that I will be able to transfer that over and send that to my landlord in the next couple of days, and that at least buys me a solid month's time. So I shall continue on bringing everything forward. I'm going to be doing a private planning meeting with the Hutchinsons here in the next week for our next crystal battery cell live. I'm going to be reaching out to Nick Cook. He was just on Leak Project earlier today. Absolutely epic interviews that Rex and Nick Cook did, but I've been meaning to have Nick Cook on. Absolutely genius when it comes to 0-point energy, anti-gravity, and UFO, UAP studies, and all of that. And going to be doing the next episode of Year of the Coil with Gerald and Jeremiah probably, and a few more in the coming days. Get things set up, start doing the agricultural testing in the Year of the Coil with the different waters, the colloidal waters, the monatomics, as well as testing with the Rife coils as well, and getting that going, and all sorts of goodness. So on that note, one last time, this was all about our good Terry Carter, and rest in peace. Rest in peace, Robert. You are a legend, Shrewsbury. Amazing human. And look at that. Terry Carter's at 44.4k subs. Let's at least get him to 44.5 if we all go over there, and also leave a blessing and prayer for Robert's. Oops, I shouldn't be on full. There we should go. Oh, and it shouldn't even be on that. It should be, sorry, I'm still talking, and I thought it had gone over to back to sharing there. That's what I meant to be talking and showing. Here's the link to Terry Carter's Dying Man, Nephilim, Robert Shrewsbury interview in full. And on that note, I love you all. 111 watching. Oh wow, that's Illuminati confirmed between the 3 channels. Alien Scientist, I'll be doing a stream with Jeremy and Dutch Synths, as well as Jeremy and the Hutchinsons, and it might all be together with all of them in one, we'll see, or 2 separate things. That'll be coming in the next month, as well as, oh my god, I gotta return, there's a few, there's going to be a whole bunch of interviews coming up, and Walter Bosley, I am so sorry. Shout out to Walter Bosley and the Alien Scientist, and hopefully Joseph P. Farrell, and that might happen very soon too. It's all going to be epic. It's all coming to you in 2023. Real science, because your generosity makes this happen, and we're all in it together, making it happen together. And on that note, I love you all. We'll see you on the next one.